year. Let's start. Call to order.
Ms. Muckout.
Here.
Mrs. Darrow.
Here.
Mr. Walker. Mr. Erkins.
Here.
Mr. Vestager.
Here.
Jim's on.
Jim, can you hear us on the call? Can you give us a you're here?
Yeah, I'm here.
Okay, are there any changes or additions to the agenda? Moving on. Cody and I had the opportunity to go meet with Jody, and he gives his best regards and wants to say hey to everybody and that he's doing well and we should be back to 100% by the holidays. So I just
Right.
wanted to pass that on.
Okay.
On to approval of his minutes dated July 22nd, 2025.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of July 22nd, 2025.
Second?
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Minutes are approved. Monthly activity and financial report, Cody and Stephanie.
Okay.
Or I guess not Stephanie.
Not Stephanie today. She had a grandbaby that was born earlier this week, so she's currently taking care of her daughter and the new grandbaby. They had to, I think, go a little early because of some high blood pressure stuff, but she's doing well, and we've seen pictures of the baby. Everything's fine. So I'll be doing the financial report today for filling in for Stephanie. Again, thank you, Madam Chair, directors of the board. Some of the board members were able to attend the event here, but just some photos of just how high quality the food and beverage that we were able to do for the 2025 Summer Fam Dinner. Very, very happy with what we were able to produce from the team side on that, and just a great event. Like I said, several of the board members attended that. So I just got some photos to show kind of the service and the event setup itself. But our team, culinary team, always takes great pride in these opportunities to really showcase what they can do. And that was one example. It's not rabbit, it was duck, by the way.
I was gonna ask if the chef served lamb like he did that one year.
No. He did make a comment where he said rabbit, but it was actually duck, so that's why I made that joke. So, number of monthly events, July was one of our slower, but we anticipated it being slower, and so I'll get into that when I get into the finances. But we had a total of 12 events is what we forecasted. We're still pacing about 10 ahead on the fiscal year. And again, the big bump on that, we did take on some additional events from the Grove Hotel with them being under renovation, so I think that jumped it up
Is
there.
that supposed to be July? On the
Yes,
bottom?
it is. This number should, yeah, sorry, that one I missed.
I was like,
So- Okay, yes, though, that is July's numbers for 12 events, one banquet, 6 and then these pace numbers here at 188 for the actual, and our forecast was at 178, so pacing ahead of that by 10 events. Total attendance for July was 4,927, so again, a little bit lower, but as you can see, July historically is a lower attended month. It's the time where we get a lot of our projects done from the operational side and from the building, taking care of the building side. But again, we had a couple large ones with the Northwest Lyman College event at 1,300. Election Center Sarah event, that was 8 days, so it was only a couple hundred people, but over 8 days to get to that 1,000. Adventure 750 in a one-day event. Idaho Journalism Workshop 495 over the course of 3 days, and then Best of Boise event for 436. So again, a little bit slow over a month, and I'll show that of how much that impacts us, a facility like ours when we carry the full-size team that we do. We have a slower month, so those margins, I'll get into that when I get into the finances.
Did anything cancel or is it just? lower
Nope, just
time?
a slower July. And then also just we've had a couple really, really good July good Julys the last couple years where we've been able to pick up some of that compression from other opportunities post-COVID. And the team has done a great job of selling some conventions in July. I can tell you the chef was the first one that he's like, this July feels a lot different than last July. He was the first one to say that to me, and I knew it from what I was looking at on the book. So the team felt it, but we kept our staff busy as best as possible doing projects, but those revenues just weren't quite there. Overall, we had 7 additional responses since last month to our guest satisfaction score, and they all came in at 5. So we're very, very happy there and continuing to pace at a 4.89 response rate, something I'm extremely proud of. But 79 total responses through the year, and 72 of those being 5s, 2 3s, and 5 4s. So really proud of that as of 8/19. Market strategy, I won't go too much into this here because you're going to get a chance to hear from Ali and Carrie on the market side of things. But they're pacing extremely well. Again, this year has turned out to be a phenomenal year as we were kind of pacing potentially a little bit of a slowdown or a leveling off. We are seeing that, but again, the team has done awesome, continuing to hit the metrics and their goals. So future booked revenue over 4.4 million at 105% of the fiscal year goal. Future book economic impact, they're at 89% of that goal at 15.3, and then future booked room nights at 91% of just over 27,000. Couple of the big events, Idaho BPA confirmed for March 26. That's got 900 room nights and an estimated economic impact of 584,000. Reality Capture Network, again, confirmed for October 26, another 2026 event. Confirmed with 750 room nights estimated and 458,000 economic impact. And then all the way out to 28, teams booking, and I don't guess what this acronym is for, so I'll let Ali speak to that. Pacific Northwest, I'm gonna assume that was probably that part, but confirmed for May. Is it not Pacific Northwest?
It is American Waterworks Association.
American Waterworks Association. Okay. Oh, wow. Yeah, I should have actually known that. Again, 730 room nights for just a shy of a $500,000 in economic impact. Again, these are the kind of shows you where we're at year to date goal with the prior. So that purple being the prior year, where we're at the same time last year. So we're outpacing that future booked economic impact by about 2 million. Now, some of that is the increase in the destination international model that we're using. So take that into account. And then vice versa, same thing with future booked revenues, pacing ahead on that one by about 800,000, shy of 800,000. And then from the future booked room nights, again, 27,000 year to date. Last year at the same time, 23,600. So team is doing an outstanding job of outpacing the prior year and hitting their goals. We're going to hear more from them here shortly. On the operational side, we completed the 100 ballroom LED lighting project. So that made the lighting in there a little bit more of a actual true white. The walls actually look less yellow, and it kind of made, and I spoke about this last board meeting, was it almost looked like from one of the half of the room that had been done and the other half, one half had been almost looked like an old smoky casino walls compared to the new lighting and how bright and white things looked in there. And so we're very, very happy. We're extremely excited as we get our new carpet and wall covering this year, what that refresh is going to do with those new lights inside that space. We're currently in the process of hiring a business systems analyst. That was a position we've had and we've had it in the budget. We've been able to get through. We've hired a new director of technical services and wanted to get them on board and going before hiring this position. But this is going to be a position that I know Puneet in the room has really taken on the key role as our administrator for Momentus, which is our main software that we use for reporting out to the board and tracking all of our sales and accounting in. But we're going to bring on somebody that we had prior that was a full-time role in that kind of BSA position. Going forward. And again, like I said, we've had it budgeted all year. We just have not filled that role. So we're under budget in that line account currently, and we're just going to bring it on here in the fourth quarter and then have it budgeted for 2026. And then we did some department cross training. That is the one thing that we take advantage of the slow times to make sure we're doing training with our teams. So we had multiple service level cross training events between AV, food and beverage, operations, all getting in the same room and learning from each other and determining how they can better hand off when AV is setting up for a room for operations or operations setting up a room of how they can hand it off to AV, and then areas where there's opportunity when we have all of our services in-house, which is fairly unique for convention centers. We're able to take advantage of some of those opportunities where we might be able to do some cross-training, become more efficient. So setting up each department for success, because there's not those blurred, not even blurred lines, but clearly drawn lines. A lot of venues are operated in different environments where they have third parties that are coming in, contracts that they have to obligate to. As far as the food and beverage side, and again, the FAM reception, I spoke about that. We also held the Idaho Press Best of Boise for 436, was one of our larger banquets. And then we took advantage of the downtime to put in some new flooring in the West kitchen. I know our chef is right now is that we got a giant food show in, and there's literally, talk about too many chefs in the kitchen, that is happening right now because of the food show. So there are probably 100 people inside that kitchen right now. We rent out the West kitchen for this show. So the chef is having a hard time giving up his house, for lack of a better word, temporarily to about 100 different attendees that are taking over that kitchen. And he's very worried about his new flooring, so he's paying very close attention to that. Operating revenues. So you'll see the orange line is 2025, and there was a drastic drop off. So again, this July has not been the same as the last 3 years what we've had in July. I think some of that's due to compression. Some of it was just naturally the way that the booking worked out from some of the events. But we're still right on pace. I did forecast a slower July. It was about 50,000 total off in my forecasted revenue. So last month we were ahead by budget by about 30,000. Now I'm below budget by about 23,000. So I'm within 0.32% of the forecasted budget, which I'm extremely proud of. I hear Mike laughing over here. It is a great sense of my pride in doing the budget this year and being able to come through with an accurate budget to what we really see coming out. Fourth quarter, and I'll speak to that as I get into the budget process, is always a little bit of our what I consider to be pie in the sky, a little bit more estimates that come in because a lot of our events that as I'm forecasting for next year's budget haven't even happened yet for this fourth quarter. So we're trying to estimate events 2 years out in advance, for lack of a better word, without that reference of how did they do this last year. we have so much repeat business that it provides us a lot of additional value in forecasting and budgeting for that. Any questions on that? Okay. Again, gross profits, they fell 4% in 1 month. So this is what I talk about is convention centers that aren't utilized and highly booked. If you're carrying full-time staff that we are on your slow months, this is why it's so important that we keep the building utilized and keep our staff busy and generate revenue. Now, this is natural within July, but this was a slower July than what we would have normally seen, but it was forecasted in there. Now, I anticipate that those margins are going to come back in our fourth quarter because that tends to be our strongest quarter. But it was a 4% hit. It was a negative 80% gross profit revenue when you looked at the statement from this month. So it shows you how much we have to carry forward from expenses that are just hard costs already built in to running a facility of this size with full-time employees when we don't have the revenue to back that up. It's just an important note there. As far as the economic impact numbers go for July, we had a 1.5 million economic impact month. As you can see, a little bit slower than the 2024. It was about half that of last year. December got us off to a really great start. So we're pacing very similarly overall in the year and anticipating finishing the year closer to that 50 million. But actual year to date, we're sitting at 33.9, so just shy of 34 million.
So the December, that was because of Festival of Trees, right?
Normally it ends in November and those numbers would have fallen in there. So December looks a lot more inflated because of that. Now what's going to happen is I'll need to figure this out because I've been in too many budget years at this point. I think it's in 26, you're going to have it capped where it'll end up hitting both the two in the same year. And then eventually it'll fall off again and go back in November. So for 26, I think you will see economic impact in December for it ending in 25 fiscal year. And then in 26 when it ends in November. So it'll hit twice in that 1 year. So then the following year, you're going to be missing it or vice versa, depending on how you look at that. And I'll be sure to highlight that to the board. As far as some district updates, quite a busy month or past summer in particular of different things that I've been working on from the district side. RFP for the aquatics parking lot completed. Contract approval request is coming up and is on the agenda for today. So I'll speak to that next. Our feasibility study report to the board from Johnson Consulting will be at the September 25th board meeting. So that will be next month. They will present their findings and have the final report for the board. What I've also sent out to the board members and also me and Mary Michael are working on putting together an event, which we're calling the presentation of findings with Johnson Consulting. And that's going to be on October 16th. And what that is an engagement for any of the stakeholders. And there was, I can't even say, probably close to 100 of them that we engaged through this process between everybody that sat on the call. So we're going to send out invites to all of those folks, plus anybody from the general public or the board would like to invite. And this is the opportunity for them to get a chance to see how the process went, how that data came to that is getting presented to the board, and then an opportunity for the district or myself to be able to speak to kind of how we're going to take that data into the future and what we're going to do with it. So I'm really excited about that October 16th. There will be invites coming out here probably early September for that event to all those stakeholders. We're working on the invite system right now to make it look real professional and have a good event for that. So excited about that opportunity. Boise Center fiscal year 25-26 budgeting preliminary outlook. I put down some numbers here, but I do have the finance committee already booked for September and for October to go over the preliminary budgets. Again, we're really early in the stages here at this point in time because we just got done with our kind of event forecasting, which then gives us our variable cost to start budgeting off of. And we're looking at the early forecasting numbers, total of events about 260. This year, we're on pace to finish at 280. Now, some of that is the additional events that we picked up from the Grove Hotel that were small meetings that normally we wouldn't see ourselves take on. But again, we're seeing a little bit of a pace back based off of what we're seeing in there, but it could end up being, again, a stronger fourth quarter. And that's, I think, what's happened, a combination of the Grove Hotel events, along with we're seeing a lot of fourth quarter stuff still getting booked in within the year more than we anticipated at the beginning of this year. And so that 280 number, it's even a little high, but as I pay attention to some of what ends up getting contracted, if they're going to repeat again in the following year, we'll look at that and I might adjust those numbers as we get closer to October. 61 conventions are what we're forecasting currently for 2026. We had 56 and 25, so that's a little bit of an uptick. So proud to see that number going up. And then about 11.5 to 12 million in operating revenues, 11.6 to 12 million is where I'm at right now in my early forecasting. I think it'll come in that closer to 12 million when we start sharpening the pencil on those revenues. Hotel taxes, same story. This year forecasted 11.6, next year with the addition of the AC element, but it won't be the full year. We're looking at 11, 9, 12 million in hotel taxes. Now, some of that I can't control how many people stay in hotels or what they charge, but we use that data that I report out to the board. That's in the slides for hotel occupancies. As far as as economic impact goes, we're finishing this year at approximately 50 million. And that's what we're looking at, that's what we finished in 24. 25, we're looking at finishing this year for about 50 and the next year similar. So it's about a leveling off in that economic impact based off of the new DI numbers. So we're extremely happy to see that. But again, without more space, that number is going to be harder and harder to drive up. And then I get a chance to roll out the Boise Center mission statement and core values update, which I'm really excited. We had an all staff meeting last week would have been on Thursday. And this is an opportunity where we had our entire exec team, but we engaged a third party. And I mentioned, I reported this to the board in prior months, that our mission statement, as you can see here on the left side, this was what our former mission statement was at Boise Center. So this is not the district, but it's basically who we serve, how we do it, why we do it. We engaged Abby Louie from the management principles, and she helped us do this process really, really well, where we went through making a refresh. We wanted to carry forward some of the stuff that we had, but make it more condensed and update our core values and our mission statement. So with the mission statement, this is what we had as Idaho's premier event venue. Our mission is to wow our guests with unforgettable experiences. Our team of passionate, creative professionals are devoted to excellence in food, service, amenities, and venue management. The mouthful to say. So what we did is we've updated it to a refresh mission statement of this is what the team has come up with. Our passion for excellence in hospitality and venue management inspires us to deliver experiences that wow. Similar, but condensed, easier to remember for our staff. They're happy about that because like I said, the other one. And then when you get into the core values, we had so many core values. That's every one of those bold words there on the left side. And it was kind of just the word was sometimes in the middle of a sentence, sometimes not at the beginning. So we kind of went, let's reduce the number of core values that we have, try to keep it somewhat in line with what we've had in the past, but also to take us into the next 15 years because we last updated these in 2007 was the last time that the Boise Center updated their core values and mission statement. And what they came up with is this is a refreshed core values. We deliver logistics through service excellence. We aim high and bring our best. Adaptability. We welcome each day with positivity and flexibility. Passion. We love what we do and have fun doing it. And teamwork. We succeed together as one. So a much more condensed version, which gets us to this. And so we've kind of been using the acronym TAPS a little bit, just as a way to remember it from a teamwork, adaptability, passion, and service excellence. And the way I remember it myself is through teamwork and being adaptable and passionate, we deliver service excellence is kind of how I've been explaining it to the team. That's how we get to service excellence. And then again, our mission statement there right at the top, our passion for excellence in hospitality and venue management inspires us to deliver experiences that wow. Condensed, short, but true to who we are. And our leadership team is very, very proud of this. So with that, I'll go into some lodging room revenues. As I was speaking about kind of just what we're seeing on the pacing side of things. July's room revenues were 22.9 million. Again, very similar if you look at that green bar for 2024 right next to it for July. So a very similar month to last July. Lodging room demand, almost the exact same story. So when you look at revenues and demand, they're almost directly in line with each other with that orange and the green bar there. And very much similar to the prior months as well as what you've seen in the same previous slide. As you start getting into these, and what I like to do for the board is just highlight these so they jump out over the top a little bit more, but they're sitting right on top of each other. There's not a big drastic difference, but when you start to take a look at the numbers here for July occupancy and ADR, and I'll show you here, let's actually do it this way. We go ADRs only, so you can see, oh, I think I just did something that I went forward, that's what I did. From the ADR side, as you can see, for June and July, there was a big variance in June. Obviously, Far West Soccer, things like that can move that needle, but occupancies were not much different. But there was some significant difference between 24 than what we've seen in 23 and 25. So we saw it come back and correct in 25 to that higher number. And then as you get into July, similar story here. 24, 25, or 25 looking similar, 24 or 23 looking a little bit lower on that. So again, we continue to use these to help us forecast with the budgets and then knowing what hotels are going to be added into the district boundaries. That's kind of how we get estimates of the hotel taxes for the budget.
Cody, since you mentioned, Madam Chair, if I may,
Yeah.
the Far Western Soccer Tournament, is it true that it's not coming back to Boise? And
They restructure, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, I'm looking at you.
I heard a rumor about
Yes, I'll let
the
them-
format, but I wasn't sure.
The expert in the room.
They did restructure, so the regionals, they're more divided amongst the country, so it's not gonna be called regionals anymore. They're still have the President's Cup. And we still have to bid for it. We don't know if we're gonna get that for sure, but
Okay.
it's gonna look different as far as regionals.
Gotcha.
But it's interesting as you look at the data, and I know I sent some over to Carrie, that I track a lot of the ADR and the history all the way back from 2009. And just, it is interesting when you look at room supply, how much supply has come into the valley and how much it continues to just get absorbed. So when you look at the ADRs and the occupancies, they look very kind of flat, but that's additional supply coming in year after year that we continue to maintain that percentage of occupancy. And they're very similar from month to month, December's being in the mid-50s, August being in the high 70s, low 80s across the board for those years, depending on how many rooms came in. It just continued, Boise's growth continued to absorb that growth and those additional supply. With that, I'll stand for questions on the executive director report, and then I'll start the financial report.
Any questions?
Onto the treasurer's report. And again, as we kind of go through this, what I really want to highlight here is we're currently $703,000 better than budget for Boise Center. Now, we subsidize Boise Center, so we have a loss. So that's $703,000 better than what we forecasted in losses at this point in time. So when I say that and someone's looking at revenues under expenses and there's a negative number, that causes people to go, hey, to explain that to me or help me understand that. And so that's what that $703,000 better than what we forecasted in budget. So we're doing a good job there. The district is currently pacing about $687,000 better than budget on that side. So continuing to see a strong year. Forecasting is coming right along with what our actuals are coming along with what we forecasted. Beverage revenue being a little bit of the variance there. But as you can see, the year-to-date revenues is the gray. The year-to-date budgeted is the gray, and the blue is the year-to-date revenues, and then prior year-to-date is the orange in that. So food prior year was doing better, but we anticipated a little less in the forecast based off the type of events, meetings versus banquets. The number of those sometimes will change that food revenue number. And again, I think some of what I noticed is we had Michael Dominguez speak to us at a hospitality event just recently. I know the board was invited out to, and he talked again about the younger generation not drinking as much alcohol. The part that I took that data and went, hey, we need to adjust our forecasting. The reality is the age group that is attending conventions is not quite yet into the convention age to where they're coming to most of the events. So my forecast on the budget of the beverage revenues were probably a couple years ahead of where I probably should have been forecasting with that. Yeah, the younger generation is drinking less, but they're also not attending events at the same level that the older generations are. So. And then hotel tax collections, again, this just shows you a side by side there with the far right being the actuals, and then the one next to it with the 2025 budget. In July, we collected 1.27 million. So that was just shy of what we forecasted in the budget of a 1.3, but again, higher than what we had seen in 2024 and getting very, very close to what 2023's numbers looked like. And then we're about 227 above budget with the current revenues for the fiscal year. So while we were a little under budget on the month, overall, what we've been over budgeting is still absorbing that variance and keeping us ahead. Forecasted about 11.9 for this year. Just wanted to put that note in there so everybody can see where we're forecasted to end. And last year was 11.4. So again, we get that 11.9, I'm thinking it'll be 12. I'm looking at about a $300,000 variance between what I believe AC Element and a few other little hotels would bring into the market as far as taxes go. And then transfers, again, this is one that I'll just speak to as we get into the capital side. And I know I met with Madam Chair and talked about what we're seeing from a capital side this year. I forecasted a $2.8 million capital year this year. We're going to hit very close to that budget, a little bit under, but very, very close to that budget. But next year we have the aging out of Boise Center East hitting about 10 years old now at this point in time. So there's some items that hit that end of year or end of life about 10 years in. Plus we have chairs that we're looking at getting new chairs for the entire event center because we've switched over to this color carpet, which is going to be a strategic approach to the way that we're doing it. I know I've spoke to Madam Chair about this, going much more neutral. Our plan is to only replace the carpet in the future. We've been replacing everything on a 7-year term. Minus COVID, and we sometimes got 8 out of it. But at the end of the day, mostly 7 years historically in all my 20 years here. And we do it in different areas of the building. By going to a much more neutral color palette, when we've changed the color every 7 years, you have to then make sure it matches and you got something that doesn't look like it's standing out. But going with this approach is going to allow us to only address the high trafficked areas, and the areas that are not needing attention, we can leave the carpet, don't have to pull it up just because it's 7 years old, and keep that carpet going. So what we'd like to do is replace all of our banquet chairs, which are brown. They don't quite fit the scheme that we've got. We are at end of life on all of the chairs on the west side. East side, we purchased some additional ones. So I'm looking into a couple different options to try to save money, of whether that's reupholstering the ones on the west or the east side. But what that does is then you start having a mixed match of chairs. Maybe you can't use them in the same event room, or you have to really break your theaters up to make it look intentional. So that's a big, about $1 million in chairs that we've got in the budget for next year, along with Boise Center West's carpet, wall covering. All of the projects were just about $3 million for next year's capital needs. So I'll be updating that as I get closer into the budget. But I just wanted to let the board know, we used to be spending just shy of about 2 million for many, many years here, for my last 10 years about, on the Boise Center side. And now we're getting closer to that 2.5, 3 million. We do a 20-year plan on our capital plan. And so I can see some of the years are going to be a little lighter. There's some big years in there in the future. So I just want to continue to let the board know that is stuff that's coming down the pipeline, that we just want to make sure we continue to maintain the facility, but we are taking a strategic approach to how we manage that capital budget.
In the past, I know you've talked about potentially doing the ballroom ceiling
Correct.
project. What's?
So we've addressed it in small pieces from a safety and security, or more of a safety standpoint, from a rigging, access to that. So getting uplifts to the areas where those rig points are, and then opening up some of what we call the clouds in areas. So we just took little parts and said, what was outside of the aesthetics, which I think are still very 1990 inside the ballroom with the drop ceiling. Outside of that, let's address the things from a safety side, rigging side. And we've done that in little pieces in this year. Part of that 2.8 million, we addressed 2 different projects in that ceiling this year. And so we continue to do that in phases. The intent of changing that, because we used to have about 5 million in capital to do the ballroom over, was as we continue to look at feasibility and the potential of an expansion, does it make sense to drop 5 million into a ballroom if that might be the space that we end up renovating? Now, I'm not saying it is, but that was the thought process behind the kind of piecemeal ceiling approach versus the whole project. And COVID happened. It was right before COVID. We had the 5 million in there and thought, let's hold off on that. So, but what I will say about the capital transfers is that that's a big part of where we're outpacing budget is we're actually having to transfer less over to the center because it's becoming much more efficient on an operational side. Now it still needs subsidized from a discounts and capital needs and all of that, but we really are trying from an operational standpoint to outside of what we do to incentivize people to use the building and the needs of a large facility like this taken care of from a maintenance side. We try to operate the business like it's a private business would from that side to make sure we're profitable. Yeah. And driving economic impact ultimately is really another one of those goals. And the board's really guided me with that 50-50 revenue management and economic impact. I think we're doing a really good job from that perspective. From the investment side, again, this is the number on the far right that we're making on total about month with our investments in there, and about 28 million in total value that's being managed right now by Clearwater. Now we have cash that's been transferred over. It won't show up in here, but we do have a substantial, as you'll see in cash and investments, we're sitting at 35. A substantial amount of those dollars have been moved over to Clearwater. They just aren't showing up on that statement yet. And so without Stephanie here, I won't get too in depth to that, but I'll have a report on next month on the process of how she's got basically a ceiling before there will be starting to move over that money into the investment side more frequently. So we get the best return on our investments from that side. That'll stand for any questions, finance report side.
Questions?
Thank you. Appreciate the support from the board. And again, we're really proud of the new mission statement and the core values. It doesn't change who we are or what we've done. I know that the district also has a mission and a vision statement on the website. I've engaged Connie Miller to do a strategic plan update and kind of mentioned there might be an opportunity there to look at that. So I don't know what the appetite of the board members are from that perspective, but I think it does help make sure that we're in alignment.
The 2017, the last time we did that?
I don't know the last time the mission and vision statement got updated. I don't.
21 or
Was
22.
it? Was it?
The strategic plan did. I'm gonna look to my expert to learn on that.
17-ish, I could look it up, but around,
For a strategic plan?
No. for
No,
the
strategic
mission
plan was
vision.
2022 updated.
was it?
Got it.
Vision and
Oh,
mission.
Vision and mission, sorry, I confused the two.
But I think, yeah, you're right with 2017 being the vision and mission, because the district website probably last got done during.
COVID, 2020, we did it because it was so quiet, we had a lot of time to do those backlog.
So take a look on the district
Yeah.
website. It has the mission and the vision of the district on there, and I think that would just be something. Now, I think it does apply today, so it doesn't necessarily need changed, but the reason that I felt it was very important as an employer to update our core values and our mission statement. Employees from 2007, we last updated them, are looking for a different, I mean, COVID changed, and I spoke to this with our staff. COVID changed a lot of the workforce's expectations from an employer standpoint, from work-life integration or work-life balance or whatever you want to call it. And so I thought this was a good opportunity to go, hey, the people that we're inviting into our building to be employees now, are they wanting do they have the same core values? And if they do, that's awesome. Then we had in 2007, but let's make sure that we're living to where we are today versus living in the past. And so I think we did a good refresh on that upgrade.
be interested in something like that as we look at the future of the district, married with perhaps a strategic update and a brand reevaluation down the road a little bit.
I would agree. And I know I made those notes when meeting with you early on in the process, and that's the one that I think that her expertise would be a great resource to tap into from that side, so.
Might as well, we're doing strategic plan, might as well look at all of it.
Okay,
Okay,
thank you.
all right, with that, I'd entertain a motion to approve. Do
So move.
you have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Parking lot.
Yes, so I got my notes here for that. So what we've done is we went to the RFP process. We only had one respondent to that RFP for finishing the parking lot at the Aquatic Center. I do have money in the budget for this year, but it actually wouldn't be based off of the timing and when it would work best for the facility. But they've been able to adjust. We had Guho was the only respondent to that. Had a number come in about $650 for the total, asked them to sharpen their pencil a little bit or give me some values or schedules of values. Right now, what I'm asking for the board is to approve a contract of $596,723 with an additional $5,000 not to exceed for reimbursement costs such as travel from Guho. So it's just over $601,000 is the total cost of that project. I know I got very early and it was almost a napkin drawing from Petra on this just to get an estimate of what the cost would be. And I'm curious to get Chase's response on this. But yeah, they came in at $450 estimate on the early, and that was about a year ago. So these dollars are much more of we've asked for some curbing, we've asked for some additional things that probably weren't in that original scope. But I also think just the cost of things have gone up substantially, and I'm curious to get any feedback from.
Well, and just for Sophie's edification, can you kind of go through the process of, we tried to do a bid one time and.
I think
nobody-
didn't we go through this last
Did we
month?
go through that?
Review that or no?
I think at a high level.
Okay, and if we, yeah, so basically, the biggest concerns from us as not the operator, but the owner of the facility is the access to the facility, getting all the way around, and then also the parking concerns for neighbors and everybody else that naturally, the dirt lot is not great from a usage standpoint. Now, I think that the facility is able to do their best to try to use it as additional parking, but as it turns into mud, it creates its own challenges. So from a neighborhood standpoint, as an owner of the building, I think this would be something that we probably should have done when we built the original building the first time. And then emergency access all the way around the facility is something that I think is very important as well.
I'm more curious why there's only one response. Is it,
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Cody, can you go through the
Yeah,
bid
actually, we did.
process?
So I-
we tried to do a bid,
Yes.
get into the details of like, it was.
So I put out an RFQ at first, I
Yeah.
believe. If I went back, I'd have to go back into this. It's been a minute, but Tom Worth help us post one. We had no responses to it.
Zero.
Now, I'm a little green on I didn't know if I could go out and solicit responses to that, so I didn't. Now, finding out, yes, you can do that, and I know that we hired LCA in the second process to be an owner's rep throughout this process, and they've done it a lot more. Guho was still the only respondent. Part of what I'm hearing at least is the size of the project is it's a half of a parking lot. It's not a full parking lot, so there's not as much appetite to take on those smaller projects from the bigger construction companies. The reason I was happy to see Guho respond to this in particular is Guho does a ton of work for the city, the county, so they're a very reputable source for this. Seeing the board member shake his head to that, so feel good from that side. But having one respond still feels a little bit. I felt the same way. So, but we went through 2 processes of public procurement postings and still only got one respondent.
and since it can be shared out to others, did you get anyone responding with a, no, we're not going to respond and here's why?
No, I got somebody after the fact, was like, hey, is this still open? And it had already closed, so only one other individual was interested, and it had already closed at that point in time. So,
What's the square footage? You know how much land?
not in front of me, I don't, I can get you the answer to that, though. I know it's inside the specs, I wish I had them printed, and I just didn't bring them up with me here, so. I don't know, I'd have to estimate off of that.
Do you
I would
remember how
say.
many parking spaces?
Yeah, it's somewhere in the 47, I want to say, additional spaces. I'd have to check on that. I don't want to be quoted on that number, but yes, it's in that number. I will get that to the board. I'll send that out to the board. Just let you guys know total square footage and total parking spaces. What I'm asking for the board is for authority to enter into negotiations and enter into that contract on behalf of the district to get this done. So I do think it is something that we would want to see get completed.
And what was the timeline?
They would start at the end of March, so basically work with the competitive aquatics folks to make sure that we're not impacting I believe have some high school swim meets that finish up in early March, end of March time. Am I correct with that, Ryan?
You know, high school season's now, so it gets kind of crazy through first week in November. And then March will have some significant events in the middle of March. And
Okay.
March, it's great time to do it.
And I'm assuming the winter is not an ideal.
No, yeah, winter they can't do it, so that's what, so they were gonna see if they could get in early, and then now that wasn't gonna happen. They had originally started in earlier March, and I think I worked with them to start at the end of March now is what the windows, the scope, and actually I wrote this down. The schedule to complete the work was end of March, early April through the end of May, so basically by 1st of June it would be done. But I see the scope of work actually has that last week of May being completed, so there's a final week of May where they're not doing any work at that point, and that worked really well with the facility. So that's where they adjusted the schedule as per what they responded to the RFP. So the original RFP had a response that was the work was gonna be done a little sooner. They didn't change the price from that. I actually got them to sharpen their pencil a little bit on the price from just asking for cost of schedule, of breakdown of everything. Got a little bit cheaper, but not a ton.
So it'd be a road and 47 spots and some curbing,
Correct.
correct?
Around the landscaping curbing, because that's, what's that?
Lighting? Is it lighting?
I believe the lighting's already on the site for that side of the parking lot in those areas, but that's a question that I didn't cross that bridge.
We don't have lighting on the north side of the facility. We do get decent light from the pilot, or I guess not pilot, or Jackson's.
Okay.
But there is no lighting on the north side.
So even on the original side, there was no lighting as well. That's the north side. I know.
Yeah, south side.
South side, there is lighting.
lighting.
Okay, no, I did that backwards. So, yes, okay. So no, it's currently not calling for any lighting that I had in the scope.
See a lot of wheels turning, Chase. This is more your area.
I don't know the price per square foot to know if it's right, but it's not gonna get cheaper, I don't think, in the future, unfortunately. And not gonna get more desirable for a contractor to continue to do that size of project. I don't like the idea, but I
I'll get you
like
the square
that it
footage 'cause
needs to
they
be
pulled
done.
up my slides. They pulled me off the slides here, so let me pull that.
The idea that there's only one quote, is that, wait, is that what you're saying?
I don't like spending $600,000, but.
I'm with you on that.
And then to make sure I'm clear, this is our cost and we're eating this to make it so that the flow is better and everything, right? This isn't anything that Ryan and the group will be paying for, right? We're not adding on to.
Correct. No, we'd keep the original agreement in place for their current lease payment as it is. And then this would be just its district capital budget money is how it would be spent.
Do we know the total parking count that gets to?
Yeah, how many currently?
Probably put us pretty close to 100 in terms of actual parking spots. I believe we've got close to 50 now. And it'll be a question I think we should ask though, is I think we're actually over allocated on handicap spaces. So
I was gonna say.
They did mention that as well. So they did say there's an opportunity to look at south side, because
restriping them, so.
and restriping there to get some
Really?
additional spots, because they built them very, very wide, which is beyond code. Now, I think I'm curious from an operator standpoint, if that's necessary for some of the kids that come in there for a swimming need. But they have, if you've been to the facility, a substantial amount of loading space on each side of those handicap spots. More than what code would call for.
Is any of this a drop off? Like you would see, school bus style, get in and out for if parents are dropping kids off?
It'll be a huge help, because right now a bus cannot pull into our parking lot and get out. They'll get stuck even if they go around the T. So we use Finley as a drop-off zone. So as Cody suggested, it'll break the roads, it'll go all the way around the property, so the buses can pull up, drop off at the front door and continue around the route. So it does make it significantly safer.
I know I was up there one time and there was a bus that was just stopped in the road.
Sure.
Trying to find a couple of square footage numbers. I'm not seeing them.
Yeah, I mean, as far as the price, I was a little bit of sticker shock. To think that half of the parking lot would be that much money.
Yeah.
Um,
I think, I don't know, the 450,000 is sticking in my head at like $10, $11 a foot. And that sounded right, but this sounds much higher, but I guess nobody else wants to do it.
That's part of the problem, because this is after what, 2 rounds?
I guess from a safety standpoint, I'm on board. So, I guess I'd move to approve, that we give power to Cody to enter into negotiations on the contract. Do we put a not to exceed number or? Just use your best judgment.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably put it to not exceed a 650 just to give you a little wiggle room on it, but I'm seeing 601 total right now, but yeah, I do take 625, but I think that would give you some authority to work up to.
You're taking lighting into consideration at 625, or even?
I would ask the question on lighting from a code standpoint and a safety standpoint. I want to make sure we're checking our boxes on that side.
Cause I know that you guys start, sometimes you have lap swim that starts pretty early in the morning, right?
But yeah, we're open at 5 AM.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and especially during the winter months, I mean, lighting could be an issue. So,
And this
So-
includes paint, striping.
Yes.
so yeah, I would just check on.
Okay.
Okay, so motion, any more discussion? Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Jim, go ahead.
I said aye.
Okay, thanks. All right, thank you for sharpening the pencil and trying to, and getting them down by
About 50,000.
about $50,000. So continue, I know you're very good at that, so I appreciate that. and Continue to work on them and hopefully.
And I do believe having an owner's rep with LCA, they're gonna help make sure that there's no cost overruns, so we're gonna make sure we do this similar to what we did as we built the project as well, so.
Right, I mean, and it is our facility, our ground, so it's improving our own.
And I really just think, yeah, we've got a great partner and agreement going with them, so that's my recommendation, so thank you guys, appreciate the support.
Okay.
Okay. With that, on to our sales updates from Visit Boise and Boise Center. So Ali Rebordi, Gary Westergaard will come up and give us updates on how things are going from the marketing and sales side.
Hey, good afternoon, Madam Chair, board members. Gary and I always appreciate the time on the agenda, and we're gonna be sharing just some updates from the center side, from Visit Boise side of things, what our teams have been up to, the market, and some future outlook. I'll kick things off with convention center updates. We're gonna be looking at our goals, our key performance indicators, and future pace. So starting off, we've got a lot of basically just charts to go through, and Cody has mentioned some of this, so I'll try not to be too repetitive, but this is looking at our events taking place inside of fiscal year 2025. And so we've got our target that we set for the building on the far left column, where we are fiscal year to date. This is through July 31st. And then our fiscal year end projections, where we think we're gonna land. So basically, we're in good shape in terms of hitting our targets for attendance, economic impact, number of local events. We're right about on target for revenue and number of conventions. Room nights, UC is falling a little bit short at 93% at the end of the year. And we think part of this is due to some of the impacts seen by the new administration at the start of the year. We had some impact to some specific markets, health and social welfare and education in particular, where some funding was pulled, which meant there was a pause on either travel or ability to register for a conference. And so that did impact a couple of those events earlier in the year. In addition, we had some first time conventions that were really optimistic in the room night projections that just didn't happen to pan out. So we see that hit our end of year projections. And also one in particular that's gone unreported. Unfortunately, we just really struggled to gather the pickup reports from this client. Kind of just went unresponsive. So we'll continue to work on those figures, but really to put it in perspective, that 23,000 room nights for center specific events is still ahead of where we were pre-COVID. 2019, we were sitting right around 21,000 room nights for the year. Looking at, yes.
Sorry, just on the economic impact, because you were saying about 50 and you were saying 43.
Yeah, so I think what Cody's probably done a better job of incorporating the DI economic impact projections. So what my numbers showed were the actuals, which is DI through July 31st. But then we're just using our BSU forecast for the events for the remainder of the year. So that number should increase up from that 43,000, I'm sorry, 43 million.
I took a calculation. that
Kind of a
up.
percentage
Okay.
increase. Yeah, DI assigns a higher value. The BSU model is fairly old, and I think that there's just some different metrics at DI, and it's more an industry-wide accepted formula that we have access to from Visit Boise. Oh, let me backtrack. Okay, so looking at our sales team, our key performance indicators, we keep an eye on our leads, proposals, site visits, trade shows, and contracts. And so really in good shape. We're comparing this to same period year prior. Up in every metric except for the number of leads. Our lead volume is down about 17% compared to where we were in July of 2024. However, I would like to point out that our proposals are up. And so we think that there's just a little bit of leveling off in lead volume. There was a lot of pent up demand. You know, people were scrambling to rebook events in 23 and 24. And so just kind of some normalizing. Again, nothing too terribly alarming. If we had seen our proposals dip, that wouldn't be a great story that we want to tell, but proposals are looking good and the quality of leads that we are receiving are great. Convention contracts. So we're digging into, again, that's one of our KPIs. This is the value of our convention contracts that we've confirmed for future business. So looking at where we are for contracts, again, confirmed through July 31st and the goal that we've set for the team. We are projected to well exceed all those targets. We'll highlight some of the big wins, but you can see at the end of the year, we're aiming to hit about close to 40,000 future booked room nights, about over 22 million in future booked economic impact, and then revenue close to 5.7 million in future booked revenue. So we're gonna get into a visual of these values just so you can see how they compare to our contract activity to prior years. So looking at future booked room nights, kind of have like a inverse bell curve there, a U shape, if you will. So the average room nights associated with contracts all the way to the right, and then you move to the left, we're looking at FY19, 23, 24, and 25. So 2019, we had some huge events confirmed for the future. National Association of 4-H, we had Botanical Society, we had Society for Range Management. Coincidentally, all of those ended up having to rebook their original year due to COVID and ended up landing in 2023 or 2024, but those were all originally confirmed in 2019. Our 2025 contracts, overall, the total room nights are nearing where we were in 2019. If you look at the events on an individual basis, they're slightly smaller in terms of room nights. About 1,600 to 1,700 would be that largest one that we've confirmed so far, whereas in 2019, those groups that I previously mentioned were closer to like that 2,200, 2,400 total projected room nights. But overall, collectively, we're in good shape for future booked room nights. And then digging into the same thing, this is future booked economic impact and revenue. Economic impact in the large orange column. That's directly tied to those room nights. And so again, 2019, we kind of hit that high mark there and are nearing back up to that mark for our contracts that we've done so far in 2025. Our revenue projections are looking great. I think the sales team has gotten really great, number one, in getting closer to a more realistic revenue projection, as well as incorporating our in-house services, AV, especially for those groups that we know are confirmed to use our in-house audiovisual. That's helping our revenue projections as well. So just to summarize those last couple of slides, 2025 forecasted revenue is strong. Our room night and economic impact, contract value mirroring where we were in 2019. And I think that really speaks to how the group blocks are looking right now. Our hotel partners have been really great in giving their max blocks, especially for those groups that Visit Boise has marked as kind of like high priority big wins for the city. And so we're definitely seeing that those efforts pay off there. Okay, I did print this one out for the board. If you want to take a closer look at it, this is a direct report from our booking system from Momentous, and it is helpful just as a snapshot. This is looking at our future, our forecasted room nights and how we're pacing. And so for 2025, you see a lot of red. That's kind of the top rows there. And we've talked about this for a couple of years. We knew that 2025 was going to be behind, especially as we're comparing it to 2024. So that's not, that's something we've seen for the last couple of years. What I am pleased to report is that 2026 is pacing ahead in terms of forecasted room nights. And the pipeline is very healthy, 39% ahead of where we were last year. 2027, we're pacing ahead for those events that are booked 2 years out by 245%. And so those have really been supported by some large events like Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies. We've had Clean Water that'll be returning in September of 27, Red Aspen confirmed in 27. And so you can definitely see in September of 2027, we've got a great month already penciled in there. And that's gonna be number 10 column of row 2027 if you're looking at this. You know, we do just want to reiterate with 2025, well, these are Boise Center specific room nights. The market itself is doing well. Visit Boise brought in Ironman, you know, helped bring Ironman to town. Hyaldi was here. And so the room nights for the city itself, which Carrie's going to be speaking about in a little bit, are looking good. These are just the center specific room nights on the books. Shifting gears to team involvement, just wanted to highlight a couple things that the team members are doing. Kay Dillon is serving on the board for Southwest Idaho Travel Association. Jennifer is serving on our committee for the WAJA 6, the internal employee culture program. And I completed my term as chair for the IUVM Convention Center Committee at their conference in July in November. And so that's freed up a little bit of time to join the board for the Pacific Northwest chapter of PCMA on sponsorship procurement for them. So outside of our desk jobs, we are staying engaged in the industry. And then this is just showing both the Visit Boise and Boise Center recent and upcoming travel. So it's been a very, very busy spring and summer on the road. We'll talk about a couple of our recent and upcoming events in the next few slides, but if the board is interested in seeing where we're traveling, this is our full list of our travel calendar. And with that, I'll hand it over to Carrie.
Thank you. So for Visit Boise, I just wanted to start out, I know every year we kind of give a recap of how the Idaho Travel Council grant program works. I'll be very brief because I know a lot of you are familiar with this. This is a 2% state bed tax that's divided into 7 regions. We're region 3. Our region collected 3.7 or more, double that. It collected about 7 to 8 million. What happens with the grant is 10% comes off the top for administrative, and then 45% is granted back into the communities in which they're brought in too. So with our region, there were 4 grant requests. SWITD, which is Southwest Idaho Travel Council, does take on some of the smaller communities like Cascade and Meridian. They're under their grant. So we ended up receiving 1.775 million. And just to give you an idea of what that can be used for, it cannot be used for anything administrative or overhead. It's strictly for marketing, promotion, and sales. So we use it for all of our advertising, any web or social, going to the trade shows and marketplaces that we do jointly, familiarization tours like the Summer FAM that we had recently, site visits to bring in prospective clients and meeting planners, any sponsorships such as things like the Ironman, Hyaldi, public relations, and then a lot of research as well. And just to give you, we did not change our marketing this past year. We had taken this marketing from our customer advisory board's recommendation. They kind of reviewed it last year and gave us a lot of good feedback about things that were surprising to them and to call out about Boise. We'll likely just be running this just for a little bit longer. We are in the process of doing a marketing agency, strategic marketing agency RFP. I do have to thank both Mary Michael and Director Sestero for all the time that it's taken to be on the selection committee for that. But so we will likely be switching our creative up once we select a new agency of record. Just to give you an idea of what you're looking at here, there were 5.6 million impressions from this targeted campaign, all digital, 58,000 click-throughs to our website. And the click-through rate of 1.04, and that's on the whole campaign. That's divided into both display advertising and email. So the click-through rate is really great. That means the ads have been engaging, they're being placed in front of the right audiences, they're very targeted. Industry average is about 0.47. So this campaign running about 0.51, we see as a success. Also, the higher click-through rate on the email campaign at 7.73. When the industry average is about 1.4. So we do switch up the style, the postcard styles every couple of months, and that's been really effective as well. So the next slide, switching from marketing, this is our tourism economics is our industry go-to for research and statistics. So what you're seeing here are 3 different bars. The light gray is what was predicted in April. So what they're comparing it to is where they're at year to date as opposed to where it was in 2019 at 100%. So you can see the gray bars in 2025, they were 96% in April of 2019 numbers. So this is across the country. We've already met these numbers here in Boise. We already surpassed 2019. But I will say across the country, they're finally, you can see they're rebounding. So the blue bar, the dark blue, is the current forecast of where they were as far as August. So that pretty much hit a lot of the gray. So you can see any predictions of a recession or any downside cancellations is the light blue, and that has not happened. So they were kind of just on the downside. This is where you would be at. Reflective of anything in the economy happening. Okay, these are our numbers for Visit Boise specifically for the entire area. We work with the sales team here. We also work with all the sales teams in all the hotels across the metro area. We also work with many other different venues and events, as you know. So these numbers capture that. These room nights capture everything that we do as a community. So the first one, leads sent to hotels, we are up 3. The positives, we'll get that first. We're up 3%. Site visits, we're up 58% from 2024. And then room nights are up 8%. And I will say, going along with what Allie had said, the average room nights that from the Visit Boise leads have gone up the last couple of years. In 22 and 23, well, 22 specifically, we're sitting at about 471 average room nights for the business that we brought to the Boise Center. And now we're up to about 822 in 2025. So they're bigger blocks. They're really great leads that have been coming forward. So to address the negative on the slide, then 23 down, the leads sent to the center. So in 2023 and 24, as Allie had mentioned, those were record years for RFPs. And in part that was due to the pent up demand from COVID and the rebookings that happened. And a lot of appeal for tier 2 and tier 3 cities like Boise were being sought after more. And so currently we are ahead of 2022 with 64 leads to the center. And this is directly leads that Visit Boise directly, brought to the center. It doesn't include the ones that when there was a tag that they also sent it to the convention center. So if they sent it to the Boise Center team, and the Visit Boise team, we don't count that on this chart, but that's 99 leads that we work on jointly. And when you see like our presentation and everything we do together, our joint initiatives, we really almost shouldn't be looking at the 64 number because we do our FAMs together, we do our trade shows together, we do so much together that of course they're gonna be like, they're gonna know Allie, they're gonna know Andrew, they're gonna know, they know the whole team. And so that's more blended, I think. And so when you look at the 99, we're really down about 9%, which is more on par with the national average of what nationally they're seeing about 6% down. So it's not as, it's definitely something we're keeping an eye on. It's definitely something that made us like dig into the data a little more because no one wants to see that kind of, drop.
Is this same period, just out of curiosity, or is this the same period from the prior years?
It is, so it's December through July.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
And I was,
yeah,
oh,
yeah,
sorry,
you
go
can say
ahead.
it. No, you
Well, I
can.
was just saying, our lead volume is showing this similar trend, you know, like I said, we're down through July as well overall, whether it came from the CBD, CVent, web inquiries, email. And so it's just, and again, we hit a huge high mark, that blue bar 2023 lead volume. We were sitting at 250 leads through through July in 2023 compared to 165 this year. So I think, again, it was just sort of like a huge onslaught of new leads, new events, getting events back on the books. And then it's just now, we're just kind of having to level it off, so. But the quality of leads is really, you know, as you dig into the quality, the number of room nights, I think that's where we really are focused.
Can I ask a question about that? Seeing the almost 60% increase in site visits, is that, and I apologize, I can't remember if it was a Visit Boise meeting or a GBAD presentation where one of you cited that the conversion rate from somebody who comes into market and has a site experience is so much greater for actually booking the space. Is that a strategic shift to increase your number of site visits even as leads are shifting downward?
Well, we have, I mean, based on some feedback also from our customer advisory board, we've been really targeting and messaging that we offer site visits, which a lot of meeting planners, you know, sometimes cities don't, communities don't pay for you to come to a market. And that has driven it more. This also, I will say that the upward, we did not have a summer FAM last year in 24, but we did the year before. So I don't know if that would be the reason either. But I definitely know that we're targeting and marketing site visits a lot more than we were before. I mean, they have to qualify still. They have to have some business for us. It's not just a free ride for anyone to come here, but certainly people are taking advantage of it more.
Are you seeing that conversion rate continuing if somebody comes into market, what that metric is for then booking business?
Yeah, I should probably tap into Andrew for that, but I mean, anecdotally, yeah, we can point out a few that had a site visit earlier this year, and now they're contracting or are in the process of contracting for 26, 27, 28. So, I mean, it does make a big difference, especially if we're actively working the lead. Now, the summer FAM or Treefort FAM, they might not have an actual RFP or piece of business for us yet, but just getting them here is, you know, kind of half the, that's the goal, really. It's just to get them here, get them an idea of what our package looks like.
It really works. It definitely works. And the last thing I'll say about this is we don't have the August numbers in here, but August has been a bigger year so far. We'll know in a week or, you know, once August closes, but that it has brought more leads to the Boise Center than we have any other year. So we could catch up. There's still some time to catch up with that number, even maybe go down more closer to the national average.
So you said nationally is 6 and we're in about 9.
9 if you include the ones that were tagged, the Boise Center was tagged as well.
So is that kind of the second tier, third tier cities not seeing the demand, or is it just the
Everyone is-
nature of the industry at this point in time, or what, why are we a little?
Well, there was a pause even, I would probably say a good 2 months where this spring, where planners were kind of like, we don't know about our funding. We had groups that held off on, like maybe they had a contract, but then they're like, we're not ready to sign because we don't know if our funding's gonna be there for 2026. And so there was just, we had a little bit of just like a pause button with.
It really showed up in Michael Dominguez's reporting about kind of people assuming that there might be a correction coming or a recession coming, and then that not coming through, and we're starting to see that open back up again on that side, so.
And we're really like, I know Ally has already mentioned normalizing, and that's maybe, we don't wanna overplay that word, but I think it's, we're normalizing from that big surge after COVID still.
That's good. Quick question.
Yeah.
I recall that you guys presented a strategy with sales reps whereby we're focusing on fewer leads, but
I was about to
fewer
say.
leads that are more qualified. So on aggregate, without dissecting Visit Boise versus the center, is my interpretation of that overall we have fewer leads, but our conversion rates are better, if not the same.
Are you recalling, was it Cody that was talking about maybe fewer events, but they're more profitable, they're bigger?
No, this was
It
the
is
marketing
leads.
plan when we
These leads.
decided to incentivize the sales reps, not on the volume of leads, but on the quality.
That
of
was a
leads.
strategy that I took into this process and did it with
Oh,
both teams.
yes.
So if I-
So I was about to speak to that and say,
So-
I haven't asked the question to him and I'll do it just here, is like just that, because I wanted it more focused on future booked revenues, future booked room nights, rather than the amount of leads you can generate. So coming out of the gate as a new executive director, I was really focused. So the KPIs for the sales team and for the contract,
Yeah,
I was less focused on the number of leads. Now I'm seeing this going, maybe that's what's causing some of it. And I was gonna ask that question, but I'm not hearing that at least from
Well,
them.
no, I mean, I thought that was the right move, you know, we started focusing on, well, what's the value of the book business versus how much are we getting? I mean, that's kind of irrelevant if we're all just small little, you know, whatever. But I really do think this is just a little bit of a, like, you don't wanna overstate it, it's just like a normalizing, like, there was just sort of a flurry, and then other factors. You know, there really was a bit of a pause, not with planners not knowing if their funding was gonna be there, and they're already having concerns over their budget and prices going up, that they just kind of held off for a little bit earlier in the year, I think, on probably moving forward with business. One of the reports I looked at, it's not in our presentation, but kind of an industry pulse report that was just published, I think, on Friday last week, and a little bit of a dip in sourcing, but a lot of research activity on part of planners right now. So whatever that means, I mean, there's all different kinds of data we can dissect. I think the takeaway really is the value of the future booked business is our focus.
Well, on your previous slide, you had leads down, but contracts up.
that's the
Right.
needle that I'm threading.
Yes.
Yeah.
If we have fewer leads, contracts are up, conversion rates are up, if not on par.
So your percentage conversion rate should
We're
be.
doing the right things,
Right.
unless I misunderstood.
I think you're.
Okay, yeah, good work.
My question would be, and we can talk about this as we get into the contract negotiation. So you talked about if we were to get the combination of Boise Center and Visit Boise added to that. I'm curious, and we can do this later on the, but what would that do to 23 and 24 as well? If you were to take that same shared lead number and put it into 23 and 24, what would have that done to 23 and 24 is my question.
Yeah, we can pull
Okay.
that for you.
And then one other question, just curiosity, you said 45% is from the state bed taxes back into the community, 10% is admin, where does the rest go?
I'm sorry, your question about the grant
Yeah,
amount?
so the bed tax, the 2% bed tax, 45% gets back into the community, 10% is for overhead, where's the
And then
rest?
the other 45% goes into marketing statewide, the state funds. So I think it's like 22 million total, they take 10% off for admin, and then divide that other 10 amongst all the 24 applicants this year around the state. And then they use half, and then they let the communities use half for their marketing and promoting. Okay, so some notable events. It's been a busy summer, as you know, with events. You know, June had both the US Soccer President's Cup and regional championships. We had Ironman back for the first time in 10 years in July, and Hyaldi returned after 10 years as well. So July was a very busy time for us. In a couple of weeks, we're bringing the customer advisory board back. And that's designed for a day longer. They actually requested that. They wanted more time to, and actually be facilitated, you know, not more time in market, but just more time together and providing feedback. So we're really looking forward to that agenda and deeper dives and conversations with them. I wanted to address some of the upcoming sports. Big Sky, you may have seen the announcement that they are contracted now through 2031. So they will be here for, I think it's a 13-year stretch in the Boise market. That brings about 9,600 room nights. And then the Ironman has 2 more years on their contract as well. And that actually had 2,200 participants, which I think when it ended in 2015, it had about 1,500. So even for a first-year event, we can kind of see that there can be some growth there. And then, of course, some pending events that Lucas is working on. The one to call out would be the FIFA Base Camp. We've been on their brochure list for a country to select our market to be a training ground. pre-World Cup, so, and I feel positive that we have a good possibility. To have a good possibility, they'll come for site visits and select, and this is site visits all over the country. They'll select their markets that they want to be in, but we have one flight to a lot of places where the World Cup is happening, so on the West Coast, and there aren't that many base camps. When you look at the map, there's on the west, there's a lot on the East Coast, and there's a lot more World Cup events happening on the East Coast, but you know, we're feeling positive that the month of June could be happening here.
When is the soccer field supposed to open? Would that be?
Ball
something they
rolls
would
in
use?
March, I heard.
March?
That's when the ball's supposed to roll in the first game.
Okay,
Construction starts right after the fair closed, so
Oh.
now through March.
okay. So would they be using that?
They actually have been working with Boise State
Oh, okay.
on their, and it's been a contract, this has been going on for a year. It's been a long time coming, and again, it's not a done deal until they actually select the market, but that's a pending positive perspective. And then the President's Cup also looks like they could possibly return here next June. I know they want to try and come back, so we've got that, we're trying to get that as well. I know Ryan's here as well, but just wanted to pull up some of the confirmed bookings that Lucas has helped with, and how he works with bid assistance with site visits. We can help you know, recruit events like the Paralympics that came, US Paralympics that came last year. They're returning again next year in 2026. Things that like the water polo, when he goes to teams in some of these big marketplaces for sports, he meets with the clients that would bring possible events like this. So just included some of the things that he directly, there's probably other events that the Aquatic Center is working on that maybe Lucas did not help with. But we also have a Play Easy, it's called sports app that will give area discounts throughout the area for the sports teams and members coming. And I'll just real briefly, there's some additional meeting and sports efforts that our team works on internally. We'll go and be at the Far West or be at the Ironman with our tent. We have servicing that way. We'll bring brochures if needed. We do the Play Easy. There's different email support initiatives and some PR initiatives that we help with the meetings and sports efforts. Just an update on the hotel. Right now, currently, the proposed or the one that's being worked on is the AC Element in downtown Boise. Currently, we have 1,600 rooms in downtown Boise. It's 13 hotels that are walkable to the convention center. 10 years ago, we had 600 to 700 rooms, about 5 hotels. And so in the last 10 years, we've had a huge growth. So this will bring the count up to about 1,900 hotel rooms that are walkable to the convention center, which really helps us with group blocks as well. So we're looking forward to that opening next spring and summer.
How far is walkable? Like, does the red line count?
Some people might walk that, but we don't include it in the 13 to 14 count because it's more than a mile.
Okay.
So around a mile is the cutoff. And then top reasons for lost business, the Boise Center space was not large enough, was the top reason. And of course, we only get some of our clients to give us responses. So you can see how many groups this is paired with and the volume of business dollar wise that it would have brought had they booked here. So we do get a lot of non-responses. So this is just the top reasons that we could gather. The second reason, prefer one hotel, too many hotels needed. I do want to point out the blocks have gotten much better. An example would be one group that just turned definite for October 2028. They need 600 peak rooms and we still need to put them in 8 hotels. But we're getting, you know, we are getting hotels to get bigger blocks, which has been great. Then the third one was, hotel room rates, which has been coming up the last couple of years as a reason. We hadn't seen that probably until, you know, probably been just the last 2-3 years where that's been a reason.
And then one point of clarification is the economic impact generation, not necessarily building revenue for lost
Yes, and this is, did you have anything to add? Cause you had a slide like this
No.
also.
So, and these are all, Visit Boise
For the area.
events for the area, and so if we're looking at just center-specific lost reasons, our main lost reason right now, is really just client becomes unresponsive, they just kind of start ghosting us. So unfortunately, we just don't have the actual reason. Another top one is, so our dates just aren't available. Center,
So clarification, that's economic impact, not lost revenue?
economic impact.
Okay.
Carrie, does this exist from other markets? Can we compare reasons why a business is lost elsewhere, as in, is scheduling a complexity everywhere, or is it specialized to our region?
That's probably available. Now, whether or not we might be done with.
Johnson will probably give us
Yeah.
a little of that in their report next month
Yeah.
about kind of what they see from other markets compared to Boise. I think it just depends on the market, but each market has its pros and cons, and we're hitting the con of the space not available and the hotel availability challenge. I look at 3 of those bubbles all being very similar with hotel challenges and 2 of the bubbles being Boise Center challenges, so. Yeah.
One of the things that, and we'll touch on it in some of our joint efforts coming up, but, you know, we mentioned Michael Dominguez, President and CEO of Alhi, being here last week with Boise Meeting Pros event, and he is just a whiz when it comes to understanding the data and making sense of it. He's got a really good idea of the state of our industry. Right now, you know, he called out 2 major convention centers that are offline, both in Texas. We've got Dallas and Austin. And so that's just, you think of all those groups, those are going to be spreading out, hitting other venues, and that's going to have a trickle down effect. And so right now there's going to be some availability challenges, he thinks, just in general for planners if they're looking at 26, 27, you know, these next couple of years, just because of some of the development or renovations and expansions that are happening. Couple that with the sports, what do you call the next couple of years, or no, the decade of
Mega
sports.
decade of
Decade of sports coming to North America. It's just gonna be an
2
interesting.
Olympics,
Yeah.
the
Olympics,
soccer.
FIFA.
I mean, the next decade has some significant sporting events that are gonna take up hotel demand off in several areas, so that's gonna impact future meetings and ability to book them in certain markets.
People are gonna avoid those markets.
Yep.
Hopefully come in to Idaho.
Would that indicate that
Opportunity.
we wouldn't want to do anything in 26 or 27 that would compromise our market?
It's an interesting angle to take, yeah.
It's
I mean-
definitely part of the conversation of what we want to, now I wouldn't, I guess I would, I don't know if I would say, I think we could benefit from that because of the compression that's happening from those others being closed in some ways.
But we wouldn't want to shut down, do a renovation.
Right.
I would say right now would not be the
Right,
time.
right.
So
That's
that's
what I
where,
was
yes,
going
that's
for.
the question was going, then yes, that would be a consideration to be thinking about
You want to be open and available.
when everybody else is trying to, yeah.
So do you share this data with the hotels to say, hey, here's why we're losing business? Because with 3 of them being hotel related,
We do. Show them,
so it's not new news to them, right?
not news.
The bubbles are lost revenue, or,
Lost economic impact.
Economic impact, sorry, I misspoke.
so the 44.8
At the top.
doesn't coordinate with the totals in the bubbles.
I think these are just like kind of the top
High.
reasons.
Got it,
Yeah.
okay.
Those are the big reasons, not all the reasons. Makes sense.
Are hotels feeling that loss of revenue, or are they not willing to come down on their prices because they are able to sell out those rooms with no problems?
Their occupancies with the higher ADRs are coming in still the
Because
same or
typically a
better.
group rate is lower than a standard leisure rate, right?
Exactly. So they're playing that short-term game right now. Now in another 300-room hotel, that is starting to, we feel like, change a little bit of the approach from the hotel
So
side.
it's showing that the market is ripe for still more hotels, right?
Which also the ADR trend shows, if I
Right.
understood correctly. Because we just keep absorbing the additional capacity by growth.
Yeah, we just haven't put that big hotel that's really changed the market. It's just been keeping up with the pace and the growth. I think that the development here has been fairly smart and paid attention to, okay, how much would it sustain? And there hasn't been a big developer that grew and kind of did what Spokane did, where they put a giant hotel in for a while, and now they got to come up to that demand.
So I know it was a while ago, but I think you had number of hotel rooms in similar markets and our number of hotel rooms and how we compared, and we were at the bottom of the barrel or close to the bottom of the barrel. You know where we are? It'd be interesting to see where those numbers are today, you know, especially with the new AC element coming on board. Like
We can look at it.
Spokane, you know, who are our main competitors and where we are for number of hotel rooms, or I'm just curious. See if we're
Be
still
interesting to
really
know, especially
greatly
within the mile, I
underserved.
think is where we've been a little bit of the day, so. yeah.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, I think that will be in next month's presentation. I'm pretty sure that's
Probably
in the
with Johnson.
competitive analysis. We'll
Okay.
see that.
Okay, all right.
I know the convention center square footage for sure in our competitive set, but it's a pretty deep dive.
Okay,
Hotels too.
okay.
And it would be the competitive set that Carrie and Ally.
And obviously Carrie met with Johnson Consulting, so they have all of this data there, not this data specific, but the information from Carrie about the challenges, and it'll be wrapped up into that report for sure.
So moving on, there's some joint initiatives. I'll start off with, this has been a great project. It's not quite launched yet. It should be as soon as we get approval. It's done, it's finished, it's complete, but essentially this was addressing the walkability of how close the hotels are to the convention center and helping our planners understand that you're really, like, we call them our outdoor hallways. You could be in a convention center and, you know, in another market, we won't name which ones, that you'd be walking forever and ever and ever. And here you're outside walking a block or two. So it kind of speed walks from these hotels. It also it will have a booking, not a booking, but a link feature to all of our hotels. So we're actually showing the whole market, but these are the walkable hotels in the convention center. And then it shows right to the front door. So we're looking forward to putting that on our website soon.
Super slick.
Should do one in those other large markets, and do a walkthrough of their hallways. But at the same time, and like, which one did you enjoy more?
We wanted to do
Walk
an
through the city
overlay,
or the walk
for
through
sure.
the hallway, convention space.
I'll turn it back over to Ally for.
So we've teased a couple of these big wins and we're really happy to be able to announce a couple of them here. Sensi selected Boise for its annual family reunion. That'll be in July of 2026. We talked about having a slow July in 25. I don't think that will be the case next year. We're anticipating about 4,000 attendees coming in for that one. 2,300 room nights, 1.8 million in economic impact. What's cool about that particular program, number one, they're headquartered in Idaho, Meridian. And they go to some pretty big cities. They were most recently in Minneapolis. They were in Orlando before that. I mean, thousands. I think at one point they were having about 8,000 attendees. Those markets can support that. Boise, we obviously have our capacity limits. And so they're designing their conference to fit inside Boise. So it might be that they're coming in two different waves. They're using the arena, the center. I believe we'll be doing some shuttling out to their campus, and so that's going to be a really great conference for the city next year. Porsche Club of America announced Boise as well for 2027, their parade event, July of 2027. So about 5,000 room nights associated with that one, 2.5 million economic impact. That one's gonna be very cool. I believe the last time that one was here, what Lucas said was
Must be a high end,
2023, I think. So Lucas helped out with Porsche.
2003.
Yeah.
The fact that most Porsches are two-seaters, I can't make up the math to get them. But they do have some SUVs, I guess, yeah,
So
that's impressive.
We're just really excited.
each car gets its own hotel.
Yeah. And again, that one's gonna be taking over the city. They're, I believe, using obviously the center, the arena, Expo, I hope I'm not mistaken, and just we'll see the
The
whole
press, I think they'll do a preview out there.
whole city activated. And so that's been a really fun collaboration. Visit Boise, Shannon helped out with that, really took the lead on Sensi, Lucas on Porsche. And so we're excited to be a part of that one. I think we talked about Cellcore before. That's been a really great event for Boise Center. Utilizing our in-house services, high revenue generating, high room night generating. So we'll bring that back next spring. And then we've also just firmed up a new rebate. And so this was kind of born from the customer advisory board feedback. Right now, our program is to help offset facility rental. Clients have the opportunity to earn a credit on rental after the event occurs based on their food and beverage spend with us and their room night pickup. This one is designed to be based on just their in-house spend with the building. So a combination of food and beverage and technical services, which is AV and IT. And so we think that's really going to help support their use of our in-house AV in particular, drive more revenue for the building. And really the room night component, we love it, you know, it's measuring that economic impact and it really is critical to understanding the overall value of these events. But it's outside of the control of the planner. And then when you kind of couple that with just our market in general, having to use 8 hotels, it just makes it more challenging for them to kind of control the pickup, quantify the pickup. And so we'll still continue to track both, but this gives the sales team a new tool to use to attract some of those, designed to track those higher revenue generating and room night generating really in the end, those conventions for Boise.
So the rebate actually, it functions like a discount on.
Exactly, and it's, you know, excuse me, we changed the term from credit to rebate just because the clients found the term rebate, I'm sorry, credit a little bit confusing. Rebate was kind of a little bit more in their wheelhouse, and so talk about room rebates, they build that into a lot of their hotel contracts. So again, it is designed to offset rental, but it will be based on performance and nothing of the event. I think so.
Okay, so with our summer fam, I know we've mentioned it, we had 13 planners and 1 media. She was a freelancer specifically writing for Northwest Meetings and Events, and she's working on that story right now. We have a lot of pictures to kind of show you.
We
So
just want to tell the story.
yeah, tell the
visually,
story in
right?
visual. So most arrived with very little perception. We did a follow-up survey of what their thoughts of Boise were before they got here and then after they spent some time with us. And so they arrived with very little impression, but left impressed by its walkable downtown, vibrant culinary and art scene, outdoor recreation, and the clear pride residents of the city had, which I'm so glad came across in everyone that they met with. So we took them on a tour. One planner, and I just wanted to share, and it's similar to kind of the after perception, but she shared that she had traveled all over the world and been on several fam trips, and this trip to Boise was one of her absolute favorites. The city's walkability, friendliness, and unique culture made it an exciting destination for groups, and you can tell everyone here truly loves their city, which they love. I'll turn it back over to Ally to finish.
Yeah, and we were really pleased that a few of our board members joined, Chase, his wife Erin, Sophie and Kristen joined our dinner that we hosted at the center. And really, like Cody mentioned, our culinary team just knocked it out of the park with a 4-course dinner. Had a really incredible time being able to showcase our catering, just because I think that really does set us apart from other convention centers.
That photo looked like a stage marketing photo when I first saw it too. You guys had such like, you and Mary Michael both had very like, I'm like, they like, you know, you look this way, look like you're in the
And
middle
they
of
just
the
closed the deal right then.
And then, yeah, we wrap everything up with a trip down the Payette River with Cascade, raft and kayak, and they always do such a great job. And this is just a really cool moment for planners, especially for those that have never done anything like this before. You can just see it on their face, and as they go down the river, it seems to just be kind of like a life-changing.
Yeah, they're a little frightened beforehand, and then we convince them that it will be great, and then they love it. They want the videos, they want the photos, they're all bragging rights.
So two of the main trade shows we partner on, ASCE and IMEX. We just finished up ASCE. This was in Los Angeles just a couple weeks ago. And we'd had a 10x20 booth there. We'll be doing a 20x20 at IMEX. That's in Las Vegas in October. And what we're excited about is our new booth activation. So for a number of years, we've been doing some tastings of 44 North Huckleberry vodka. We would have some potato chips to drive some foot traffic. And this year we are working with Brigade Screen Printing on a live heat press. Planners can come up and you see it's kind of hard in the picture. There's 5 different designs they can choose from and have their tote custom designed with those designs. We handed out 300 of them. We went through our entire supply of totes, and this was just a really cool way to engage the clients at ASCE, and really the time it took, which wasn't too long, but it gave us a really great opportunity to visit with planners while they were in line. So We had Nick Aldinger, I will just mention him, obviously Kathy Schofield from Grove Hotel joined us, Block 22, she's on the left there. And also want to point out Nick Aldinger, who's on the board for Visit Boise and also runs IBL events, joined us in the booth, and he was fantastic at engaging planners and really worked the show floor with us. I think we gave him an open invitation to come back anytime. Additional efforts, just a few things to wrap up here. Collaboration with Destination Madison, that was earlier this summer, June, at MPI World Education Congress in St. Louis. And that was a really interesting opportunity to partner up and host some clients to a social hour there. Our cities have a lot of parallel similarities, and so we were able to bring out a few, a nice group of clients to visit with the Boise and Madison teams. We've already mentioned Michael Dominguez and Al Hay a couple times. What's cool is this was his second visit here, almost a year to the day. So he, the first time he was here, he just pointed out, he's like, there's something really special about Boise. And in visiting with him last week, he's like, I'm trying to convince my wife to maybe buy a property up here. So it's always a treat to have them in town, and just such a great resource for our industry. And then 2025 in-market events, Treefort FAM, Summer FAM in July, and then we'll have our customer advisory report back in 2 weeks.
And I already mentioned our marketing RFP will be hearing from the final 3 to 4 agencies that are selected from our selection committee in middle of September. So we will know our existing agency is also bidding, so we'll know if we'll be staying or if we'll be switching at that point. And then this is the second year, I believe, that we're doing this for the lodging community, and I think it's helped other businesses as well. I know we sent it to Cody as well. We do a specifically report with tourism economics where we had the other forecast. And this is a forecast for 25 and 26. It really helps the hotels where they're budgeting. They're super appreciative to receive it, because they were asking these questions, and we would give them our best answers, but this is really diving into all of our data and presenting it in a way that they can use moving forward. So that'll be out soon, should be any week. And we're excited to announce we are contracting with Smart Meetings to do their spring event here, April 19th to the 21st. They'll be at the Grove Hotel in the Boise Center. They'll bring in 60 planners to market, and then 60 suppliers for about 410 room nights. And so wanting to do one of these industry events, host one at least, if not every year, every couple of years. And so the last one we did with Meetings Today, that was a huge success. And now we're looking forward to this one. So with that, thank you. We really appreciate our partnership, and it's a privilege to work with the team here, and we just really value our relationship. So if you have any questions for us, I know we were a little long-winded today. So.
Any other questions? If something comes up, I'm sure you're welcome, anybody reaching out to you after the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
All right. You're not Josh.
Last up, it's not Josh. We do have Ryan.
Sorry to let you down. I have 4 o'clock, so I'm gonna be a little brief, but you guys have kind of been familiar with some of our slides, so we'll kind of run through that. And Ally and Carrie kind of covered some of our future events, so that's great. Things have been going well, swimmingly. It's been a busy summer, and just gonna be a busy fall. Financially, things continue to go just fine. Ups and downs, good months, bad months. We are just a little bit behind budget, but given the overall dollar numbers, we're not too concerned about that variance right now. So we head into the fall, we should see some rebound there. We're still kind of learning those business cycles, the transitions that we see when kids get out of school and go into summer break, and then we come out of summer break and go into fall, what that means for a lesson program. We know what it means from a rental standpoint, because we have a bunch of high schools that are renting space during the high school swim season, which we're in now. So we're starting, we're still kind of in the early stages of year 3. And so we're starting to kind of see what those trends look like and figure that out, which has been great. these are estimated. I actually did get some updated numbers from Lucas today, but after I had sent this over to Cody, these are pretty close. So this is our economic impact through Q2. Just shy of 2 million year to date. Total impact 3.5. We've done about 3,000 hotel rooms, generated about 20,000 in tax. Those last two numbers are the ones that are a little bit light. The estimates that I sent over to Lucas for review and kind of his sanity check, he found a math there, which was in our favor, so that's great.
Aren't you the accountant?
I am. Excel got the better of me, so we'll see a little bit more, a little addition on the room nights, a little bit addition to the room tax. I did send that update over to Maria, so she'll have those included in her updates. Projected, based on the events we have left, we think we'll hit about 4.5. We think we've got some, unfortunately for the YMCA and the problems they've had with their facility, we've pushed events over to us. We've been able to pick up additional things. We've added some events to help placate the local swimming community. So we think we'll actually see some additional room nights that we have not really kind of planned on. So we'll see how that pencils out. We're just trying to juggle it all into a tight schedule already. The Y had some events planned at the same weekend that we had. And so now we're trying to figure out if those events can be earlier or later and try to help the local community with those. So we'll see how that goes. We're still kind of working through that. Kind of reviewing what we've done to date, and we'll spend a lot of time on this. We've had some great meets in March. Those kind of penciled out into May. And probably highlighted by, not a huge economic impact number, but, hosting the United States Paralympic Nationals was just an amazing event and experience. And again, it doesn't push the needle a lot for us financially, but it created a lot of awareness for the facility and what we can offer. We always reach out if we have events that come in, we reach out to get feedback, and reached out to these guys, and 2 weeks later they called and wanted to rebook. So they are scheduled to be back in 2026, June 11th to 14th. So that's exciting. They expect to have more athletes, and we just received a ton of praise. They're spreading the word throughout the Paralympic community. And so that'll be a great event for us to have next year. I'll highlight those here as well. So
I'm assuming you're getting the reputation as a fast pool.
we are. I mean, these kids spent countless world records in our facility, which is pretty cool. And we've had national age group records and Olympic trials qualifying times, and it's a fast tank of water. And so that's great. The more of these events we have and the more we kind of tack on a resume, then it's just one of the things we can put out in front of people when we're bidding on events, and it does pay off. So it's been great. Kind of looking at the rest of this calendar year into high school season. So we've got a high school invitational that happens at the end of September. A lot of out of town high schools will come in for that. It's just kind of a one nighter for them. Some of those schools maybe a two nighter depending on when they arrive. We are hosting the state high school championship this year. So that'll be towards the beginning of November. Like I said, this middle meet there, the Sawtooth Thanksgiving meet will be kind of replacing or trying to replace one of the events that's typically held at the Y. Just trying to fill a void for some of our age group kids. And then we will be again hosting a collegiate invite that is held by the University of Idaho that will have about 400 kids coming in from around the country that they've invited. So that's kind of a fun event for us to host. Going out future. So we're always kind of proactive in these. Some of these are bid out, year, 2 year, 4 year, whatever it is. And so we just try to get on whatever cycle we can. Starting in March of next year, we are hosting the Mountain West Age Group Championships. We'll host that essentially perpetually until they decide to go elsewhere. And that'll be about 500 kids this first year for this event. And then of course we'll have the Paralympic Nationals in June. Looking out to 2027, 2029, we're going to host the Western Zone Senior Short Course Championship. So that's not age group kids, but kids kind of aged 15 and over. That's a 600 to 700 athlete meet. So we've got that penciled out for a couple of years in the future. We'll welcome back the Western Zone Age Group Championship meet in 27 or 28. We know we'll get one of those years. They're just trying to kind of figure out that meet floats around. So for example, it was in Elk Grove, California this year. It's in Mount Hood, Oregon next year. And based on the bids that are in, they're going to try to place it so that it continues to move. So we'll either see that in 27 or 28 again. Other, kind of programming notes, high school season's underway. We host a number of high schools at our facility. We've Bishop Kelly, Boise High School, Timberline, all practice every single day at our pool, which is fantastic. When it starts to get cold, we'll see Mountain View come in for the latter half of October and the state championship meet. It's a busy place. If you're there in the afternoons between 3:30 and 7:30, every single inch of water space is being used. So it's nothing is going to waste, to say the least. It's very busy. We offered our facility for a Swim Across America event, which was fantastic. That was a cancer awareness event, and they raised over $50,000 for the St. Luke's Cancer Wing, which was phenomenal. Brought in Olympic gold medalists into that event. So again, just trying to be a good partner in the community and offering some space for some of these events. So that was kind of a fun thing to do. And again, all of our teams within the facility, whether it be water polo or club teams, are just continuing to see their rosters expand and increase participation. So that's what we expected to see, and it's been good to see that come to fruition. Of course, that also helps our bottom line because as they grow, they need more space and pay us more rent. So it's been awesome. Continue to have a strong staff. The lesson, program, kind of as cyclical as it is, the staff numbers kind of seem to be about the same. So between lifeguards and our active instructors, we kind of land right between 20-25 pretty much all the time. So that's kind of where we're at now. And the other thing that we're finding is that I am constantly on the phone with Bertha or Sprung Structures, and they are modeling our facility everywhere. So we've talked to a school district in Indiana. We're working with a program in Vancouver. We're looking at another one in Minnesota. It's been interesting to see that they're kind of married these concepts together. We kind of created this animal, and those companies are now starting to push that out to other areas of the country. So it's kind of a fun deal, and they always kind of fielding random phone calls from people asking about what we like, how we feel about it, how does it work, and our feedback's really been positive. So it's been kind of fun. That's all I've got, unless you guys have any questions for me. I do want to take a second to thank you guys for your support with the parking lot. And we're making things do, and but as Cody indicated, we've got some safety needs, and this will go a long ways to helping some of that and kind of certainly alleviating some of the parking concerns that we have, in particular for events, but just day to day, especially this time of year. We got high school kids there and kids, moms with their children for lessons, and trying to make that a little bit safer place. Great thing for the facility. So thanks for doing that. Questions for me at all?
One clarifying question, you said 25 staff, but there was another slide earlier where you had two numbers for support staff or direct support staff, and then I can't remember what the other one was. What's the difference there?
So those are actually the economic impact numbers. So through our events, we're supporting that number of jobs in the community.
And then what are the two different staffing numbers?
Back to that.
Sorry.
That was at the beginning, wasn't it?
Right.
This is what you're looking at here?
Yes, direct jobs, total jobs.
And I'll lean on Ally and Gary a little bit if I get this wrong, but Lucas's explanation to me is direct job supported would be, we generate a specific motel room, right? Someone's walked into the grocery store and bought XYZ, and so a checker was there, right? And then, of course, total jobs would be even ancillary to that. Someone had to, there was a cab ride, there was something else. There's all the little things that happen when someone comes to Boise. So these are the numbers that we get from Visit Boise based on the room nights and people that we bring into the valley.
Uses some metrics to make some assumptions based on how many jobs would be needed for the event that are direct specific to it. And then the ancillary stuff is kind of what else is needed to supply. Well, you're gonna need service providers to get people to and from. You might need Uber drivers, you might need that, so that stuff is taken into account as well.
Great. Thanks for clarifying.
Yeah, questions?
Great, thank you guys, appreciate it.
Thank you. Here, forward.
That.
All right. Seeing no other business before the board, meeting's adjourned.